will we will be free. For when the rising tide is turned in every London quarter, Parliament comes crashing down with Robert's Rules of Order.
Let me move back. Gotta go.
Sunday, May the 3rd. The first Sunday of May after we got rid of that bitch April.
Yeah, there we go. I like the sound effects.
Okie dokie.
Okay, we're ready.
Doop-a-doop-a-doop. Boom. Anyway. Sunday, May the 3rd. I am looking at this and trying to figure out what in the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, those Sunday ones are always...
Oh, okay. This is about quorums. Okay. In the meeting of the convention...
the convention.
Here we go again. Unless the bylaws of the organization provide otherwise, the quorum is a majority of the delegates who have been registered at the convention as in attendance, irrespective of whether some may have departed.
Right, and that is interesting.
This goes back to our seated question a little bit.
Well, it also, there's a huge controversy in the National Party over this.
Okay.
And we'll go and read it. I at first did not agree with Alicia on this, but now I think I agree with her.
Uh-oh.
Do you recall at national conventions, the last day we're always losing quorum?
Yeah, because people are trying to get checked out of the hotel and get their luggage and get the hell to the airport. Yeah.
And they leave.
Yes.
But our number of registered delegates is
much higher. Yeah.
Right. And what Nick has done and whatever. Well, Nick's ultimately responsible. I'm not trying to blame this on him, but, buck stops with him.
The buck stops with the chair.
Right. Where he'd say, if you're going to leave, be sure to check out. Roberts doesn't allow checking out. He says regardless of if people left.
Which is a fundamental problem.
But Alicia's right. Now, our convention standing rules in Colorado, the reason I wrote them to have that way, to mention checking out and having to re-credential each day.
Until they got gutted.
Yeah. But that's why I did that. And our national convention rules need to be changed.
Sorry.
Nobody...
refilling here.
Well, that sounds refreshing. Nobody has really challenged Nick on that except for Alicia, and I don't...
Pepsi with sugar, the choice of the old generation.
Yeah. She's never made an issue of it. Like, well, let me put it this way. She's made an issue of it, but she hasn't made an official issue of it, like to challenge it or raise a point of order. And when I first heard her point, I didn't agree with her because it just sounded ridiculous. And it is, but she's right.
Well, ironically enough, I have this section, this page, the actual sentence highlighted in my copy.
You highlighted your whole book.
Well, yeah, because there's some stuff worth highlighting because it's that damn
No,
important.
I mean the whole book. It's all highlighted. It's yellow.
No, it's not.
So what page are we?
21.
Which one?
21.
I'm getting this one out because I don't got that much room in front of me right now.
You have more real estate, huh?
Well,
yeah.
I got some other equipment. Never mind.
Plus, you have a microphone sticking in your ear.
Yeah.
Lines 23 to 27.
Okay.
Which is the exact sentence, by the way.
Yeah. But I wanted to see if there was anything else. This was brought up today in the priesthood, too, because Mr. Russ from Facebook.
Okay.
Brooksbank.
Oh, yes.
He went over to the temple to try to prove me wrong on something. And the people over there answering were very nice. And there was a guy there who just gave a caveat about quorum and things like that. And he cited this section. And I said something, and Mr. Brown disagreed with me where I thought, and I'd like to know your thoughts, I thought our bylaws should prescribe a minimum number of delegates that have to be present. Not a quorum. I'm talking about like, in theory, we could have a convention with 20 people.
You mean national or state?
National.
Okay. Sorry. Want to get context here.
Like, in theory, 50 people could show up.
Yes.
And that's our convention.
Yeah. 50,
and then quorum would be 40% of the 50.
51 delegation chairs, 40% of the quorum is 20.
Right.
21, here you go. Yes.
It seems to me that I had thought that we should have a minimum number of delegates have to show up or it's not a valid convention. And they told me over at the temple that no, that's just not the way things are done.
Well, it may not be the way things are done in terms of Roberts. Because
but they all said it's a bad idea.
Why would they say it's a bad idea? Did they give a reason?
No. And they don't know our peculiar circumstances and stuff. But
I would argue that yes, it is a bad idea to not have a minimum. Because, well, let's put it this way. And, this is something I was trying to point out to Mr. What's his face earlier today, Mr. Russ.
Mr. Russ.
Yeah. Was that we had an episode a while back. We were confused about the issue of the chicken and egg of the first group seated.
And we still haven't gotten an answer to that, have we?
I don't know. I was asking you, have we?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Because I tagged Richard and he didn't answer.
If you really wanted to take over a convention, and yes, I'm going to say this, may it never happen, okay, all you have to do is get enough delegation chairs. It doesn't matter, I know what the exact number is, 26 of our 51, however you want to do it, to conspire together to seat only their delegates and deny everybody else, and then they can turn around and take over the whole damn convention. Yeah,
and all it really takes is enough money.
Yes, enough money and to buy off California, which is 10% of the delegates right there.
But Mimi, you can't buy off.
Well, you can't buy off Mimi. That's true, but my point is that you could have the biggest. You could take the top 10 or 20 state delegations and use them to take over the entire. It's the same argument that you only need the top 13 states to win the electoral college, win the presidency. It's the same thing.
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
Right. What I'm getting at is that they could do this if they really wanted to by using the ability of voting down seating delegates to keep people out.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest problems in our procedure for seating and credentialing delegates is we have no way of making sure that this doesn't happen.
In Colorado, we have some protection.
Right. I know that I'm sounding like an M. Carling here with being paranoid about takeovers. But
I'm way paranoid.
There's a bit, no, he's worse. But there's a big loophole about this, okay? And requiring a minimum quorum of delegates, whatever that may be, and we have a 40% of all delegates, that's one thing. But if we have a minimum quorum of seated delegates out of the total number, we know what the number of total delegates is supposed to be.
Well, yeah, it's always around, between 1,010 and 1,050, at least in modern history.
It's based on that formula that's in the bylaws.
This time it's 1,046 is the maximum number, I think.
So if you were to establish a minimum number of credentialed and seated, keyword being both,
of
delegates, the maximum, whether it's a 50%, a 2/3, or whatever number you want to put, doesn't matter. But for what I'm saying, to guarantee, you can smack me later.
No, it's me. You have to, because you don't have that habit. I have it badly.
I have it sometimes. But in any case, if you establish a minimum delegate number, not number of states. Although you could do a number of states in there if you wanted to make it even more difficult.
I think it kind of will take care of itself.
It probably would. But then if you have a minimum number of delegates seated and credentialed, you have to have that in order to have a convention, regardless of your 40% of delegates to have a quorum to begin the meeting.
40% of the delegates that show up, right.
Right. Then you're looking at, you kind of close that hole. You don't get rid of it completely, but you definitely make it a lot harder.
And people will think this is too high. You might not, because you've already said numbers higher, but I think 40% of the maximum number should be there.
Okay, let's be clear about something here. I'm not disagreeing with you. Currently, 40% is a quorum of 40% of what?
Okay.
I just want to be clear.
I'm talking about two different 40%.
Right, and I want to make sure we're clear on them.
So this convention, we have a maximum number of 10,046 delegates. So the minimum...
How many?
A maximum of 10,000... No, 1,046.
That's going to say, wait a minute.
I drank some Smirnoff.
It's going to say, wait a minute.
A maximum of 1,046.
That sounds better.
And to me, registered and seated...
Yes.
There should be at least 40% of that 1,046 to have a valid convention.
Okay.
And then quorum for any particular business section is 40% of how many show up, which is at least 40% of the maximum.
Yeah, it says here in the bylaws, quorum shall consist of 40% of the total number of delegates registered in attendance.
Right. But that's a different 40%.
Right, which means you have to have a number that are registered plus be there at the same time to make that.
Right.
And what we're talking about for this other 40%...
It's just out of the maximum.
Out of the maximum total, so it'd be 40% of the 1,046, which is like 400 and...
That's just so that you can have a valid convention.
Which is like 417 or something.
And you'd hope it'd be more than that, but you want to know what that would have prevented? Portland. And that's why I came up with 40%, because Portland had under 400 delegates.
Aye.
Had I think 330 something. All I know is that the maximum number of delegates was smaller than the quorum for 2016.
And Portland was not an on-year presidential year election.
It was not.
Yeah, it was an off-year convention. So.
And I don't really know what happened. I wasn't there.
I wasn't either.
I only hear.
I heard about it later.
Right. I hear that it was expensive to get to. Whatever, it gets disputed. I don't know. All I know is that what happened was a travesty.
Yeah.
And there's no reason 300 and something delegates should have gutted our whole platform.
Yeah.
I don't blame the people that were there. They were there, but it shouldn't have been our rules should have prevented that.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And the idea of having a minimum to actually even conduct... Well, okay, I want to flip it a second here. Okay, I agree with the idea in principle. What happens if you don't read that quorum in the presidential cycle?
I know that.
There's realistically probably not going to happen.
Then the LNC decides.
Mathematically, it could happen. Then what?
Then the LNC decides.
Decides what? The nominee?
The nomination.
There's people would not go for that.
Then they better show up to the convention.
I agree with you. But I'm looking at it from I'm flipping it on the perspective of...
It's a motivator, isn't it?
It should be a motivator, yes, but it's also the case of, worst case scenario coronavirus. What do you do?
But people keep saying...
This is why we need a virtual convention, folks.
If that's to be without rehashing...
We're not going to go there.
That which shall not be named. A provision... I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
My opposition is I don't want to violate our bylaws. There needs to be well-crafted provisions, and I didn't want to go gloat or goat, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to gloat. I'm going on a different direction here.
Well, you better untie your tongues first.
Yeah. Do you remember before 2018, the national bylaws used to have a provision for special conventions? We deleted it in 2018. I
vaguely remember that.
Now, you weren't allowed to conduct business, so it wouldn't have saved us then, but I think it would have at least said...
Was that on the third day they did that?
I don't remember. All I know is I was on that bylaws committee and listened to the argument. This is the brevity caucus, and this is why I do not like the brevity caucus. We've never had a special convention. It's just wasted words. What, do you pay them by the word? That 2 sentences there just got up your ass and you had to delete them?
To which the response to that is, well, for that long piece of verbal diarrhea, you owe us about $200.
And so if you're wondering, because it looks odd to people now when they're reading it, why does it keep saying regular convention? That's all you have. It's because there used to be special convention and regular convention.
And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, we use the same terms in the in the state bylaws on purpose.
But
I specifically in the style committee delineated between the two on purpose because they needed to be delineated.
If there were provisions in the bylaws for a special convention, there'd be much more grounds for some of the things they want to do now.
That must have happened on the day I wasn't on the floor, because if I'd have heard about that, I would have been screaming bloody murder.
You might have been in the bathroom, or maybe were you having your...
That was the third day. I said my gallstone problems.
I said, whenever that was.
That was the third day.
But bylaws was the first day.
Then I must not have been in the room at the time, or
it passed
something.
Easily.
Good grief.
Brevity caucus. You think they're paying by the word.
I don't like the brevity caucus because, as I've said many times, words have meaning, and how you say things has meaning as well as what you don't say. And even as I know we argued about this earlier, I'm not going to go back into that, but even Roberts says that.
The funny thing with the brevity caucus is the brevity caucus can work, and in isolation I don't have a problem with it, but it requires the utmost of good faith from all players. And we've seen that just doesn't happen in Colorado, where you get things where does it say that? It doesn't need to say that. Come on. You want bylaws that are 100 pages long, and then when they are 100 pages long, you bitch that they're too long. Do not like.
As I've said many times, don't mistake quantity and quality, because the two are related but not necessarily the same. You can have a lot of quantity with no quality, but you can have quality with a lot of quantity.
We discussed that on Platform. Which was it about the size of the government, remember?
Exactly that words?
Well, we talked about small government.
The one we were both on?
I think so.
Or the current one?
No, this was last time.
Okay.
It was a point I made about small government.
I think that was when Knapp was trying to propose his like 4-word platform or something.
Oh, no, I'm talking about this was on the Colorado Platform Committee.
Oh, okay. And then that was a little while back.
I don't even remember what the argument was, but
that was a little while back then.
When I said that when we say small government, we're not saying actually the number of employees or how many offices there are. We're talking about the breadth of what it controls.
The scope.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But somebody was trying to make the argument, no, it means no, that isn't what we mean by small government.
Part of the goal of the party, and this has been around for a long time, is to reduce the size and scope of the government as how it impacts negatively our daily lives. That doesn't mean that you reduce useful parts of government. Yes, there are some useful parts of government,
I don't
which
agree,
the anarchists would disagree with, but we'll leave that alone. That doesn't mean you reduce those parts down to nothing. But there's a lot of things that aren't useful that both the minarchists and the anarchists can agree upon.
You're not a minarchist. I don't care what you say.
I use the line between minarchy and anarchy as a jump rope. But anyway.
You're not a minarchist.
The point of it is, those are areas that there's agreement that they can be reduced or eliminated, okay? And those are areas that can be focused on first. You know, as I like to say, let's not worry about whether the train stops in Sacramento or San Francisco. Let's get the train off the blocks in New York and get it to California first.
Do we have to go to California?
Well, I'm just thinking that because of transcontinental, but that's, the long journey.
All right.
That's an analogy. But the concern about the quorum is a good idea, I think, of having whatever it's 40% I have majority, whatever the number is, of the total number of delegates allowed. Yeah. Now, granted, I'm a person, I yet to figure out where in the hell they pull these numbers for the formula in the bylaws out of. I've never gotten a good explanation for that. They're there. I don't know why they're there, but they're there.
Way before my time. I think they've been in there a while.
And it seems to me that there should be a better way to do it, but that's neither here nor there. They're there, and we just go with it. So, or even if they were to set a ceiling for the number, because eventually what's going to happen, at least this is the hope, okay, that we have enough of a membership, enough of a impact as a party, that we have to worry about setting a specific number of delegates to go to each state convention from the local affiliates in order to set the number of national convention delegates to go to the national convention, which is then peaked at a certain number, whether they're bound to a candidate or not, the way the major party does it.
I think we're eventually going to have to go.
We'll get there eventually. But the bottom line of it is that we've got to make sure that these numbers are laid out in a clear and concise manner. Colorado's bylaws have wording in there which we've never used, but it's still there, and every time someone wants to take it out, I say no, because
The Brevity Caucus.
No, well, in this case, it has everything to do with the wording of where the Credentials Committee the State Credentials Committee may impose more requirements on the counties.
That's a protection.
It's a protection, and it's also there because if we get all 64 counties with active affiliates, may it happen, then we can't have just everybody who's in the affiliates show up at our convention. We can do that now because of our numbers are so small, but if we get to the point where they're so large, we can't do that anymore.
Right.
That's why that language is there for the future.
Well, in theory, we could be like totally fucked next convention if all 40,000 registered libertarians showed up.
Yeah, we could. But the reality of it is that clause is in there so that the convention is manageable.
Yeah.
You know, so we're not having a rent Coors Field to do it.
Well, actually, that clause is in there for that, but the exigent cause for it, because Jeff Orrick wrote it, was because of the Howard Stern thing.
Okay.
So he said if we got because we have that seasoning provision.
Yes.
That if we got word ahead of time of that again, I'm going to say the Republicans were trying to take over our party. It's usually concentrated in 1 or 2 counties. Mm-hmm. So you cap the number of delegates that can be from any county to prevent a takeover. Right. That's the way Orrick explained it to me. And we've never had to invoke it.
Yet. We would like to have to invoke it sometime. Because that means we've grown enough where
it
becomes necessary.
For that reason, not for a takeover reason, but because of growth.
Right. Which raises the other question. Okay, we have that seasoning clause in our state bylaws for our candidates and for so on. Should we have that for our presidential candidates in the national bylaws?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
But if that's been proposed and never would pass.
I personally would vote for it in a second. I want somebody who's a presidential candidate who actually
has been in the party,
has the gumshoe to the conventions, has met the people, has shook the hands, kissed the babies, and all that. Hand out the swag, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Earned the votes, not just a late entry who just says, "Hi, here I am. Look at me. I'm all shiny," because of whatever reason.
Paid their dues.
Yeah. This is where you insert the Amash stuff.
Yeah. But I like Amash.
He's got positives. He's got some negatives.
Well, I like him because he gave us that seat. I wish he gave it to us sooner.
I wish he'd given it to us sooner also.
But better late than never.
True. However, that raises the question here.
Because I tell you, I got all tingly.
How's he going to caucus? Or is he?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I got tingly when there was some news article, and you know how they say the people's name and then they put the letter of their thing to finally see an L?
Yeah.
I got a ooh.
It's about fucking time, yeah.
Yeah.
I will give him fair credit for that, and I'm grateful for that. That's cool.
So who's he going to bring with him, Massey?
I don't know.
Now Massey has a chance to win his seat, so he's not gonna.
Yeah, and I doubt he's gonna bring Rand Paul along.
I don't want Rand Paul.
There's a lot who don't, and I'm ambivalent about it.
No, that apple fell far from that tree.
Yeah, I'm ambivalent about that. I don't know. I follow Massey on Facebook.
Amash is much closer to being the ideological son of Ron Paul than Rand Paul is.
And even Ron had some shortcomings, but
everyone does.
Yeah,
but. Like, if you had to just pick out of all of them who you would think would more consistently be, it'd be Massey or Amash way before Rand.
Frankly, I wish he'd bring Christine Noem along for.
I don't even know who that is.
The governor of South Dakota.
Oh, she's a badass. I wish we'd have our convention in there. But it's hard to get there.
Flying to Rapid City.
There is major flights there?
Through Denver, yes.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Not Southwest, though.
I don't know about Southwest, but I know United goes up there.
Really?
So does American and Delta.
Damn it, let's go to South Dakota.
I go to the Black Hills. I love it up there.
I think we need to reward her.
And ask her to be our keynote speaker.
Yeah, get her into the party.
Yeah, no shit.
She is a badass.
She is. She took the approach, folks, if you haven't heard, of she informed people of South Dakota of what was going on with the coronavirus, what the risks were, and suggestions to how to deal with it, including suggesting the social distancing, the stay-at-home stuff. But she only mandated it once, and that was when they had the breakout in that meat plant in Sioux Falls. The rest of the time, she said, look, you're adults. Make your own decisions. But here's the information you need.
Are there any big convention centers in South Dakota?
Well, the two major cities are Sioux Falls and Rapid
So there
City.
has to be in the big cities.
Bismarck, the state capital, is actually smaller than Pueblo.
Yeah, I know it's weird. Some of the states are like that, but
Well, both Dakotas are that way. But Rapid City is really the population.
okay. I'm going to suggest that to the convention committee.
Oh, Betty Rose would kiss you for it.
I want. Well, the way you get things done in the convention committee is offer to do the work.
Yeah.
Say, hey, would you be interested in hearing from South Dakota? I'll go get some bids. We'll see.
I personally would love to see them do a convention either Chicago or Kansas City.
I'd love to see it at the Gaylord.
Here, well, maybe.
But they went to get bids from the Gaylord for next convention, and
they were
expensive,
just
ridiculous. But now I wonder how desperate they are.
Well, back in 2010, I actually went to the Ontario Convention Center in California and got a bid for the convention center there. It was a convention center style thing, but there was 20 hotels and 53 restaurants within walking distance, plus the Metrolink train station and shuttle cell to the Ontario airport.
I wonder how desperate the Gaylord is right now.
The thing of it is, the bid I submitted came in the middle of the pack versus what they did for Vegas and on some other ones, but it was roundly ignored, which pissed me off.
There's a lot of politics sometimes.
Well, not only that, but they were wedded to the hotel mentality. All right, we've gone off the deep end here. So, so much for Sunday. Boom,
boom, boom,
boom, boom. Hey.
I like the cars that go boom. Okay, wait,
whatever.
Viva! Let's hear the opposition side. Like a stubborn donkey's bray. All opposed? You say nay. Opposed! Opposed! The motion carries anyway.